The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hi, my name is Joy Barrett. I'm the Executive Director with the Granite State Children's Alliance. We operate 5 child advocacy centers here in New Hampshire. And over the years, I've had the privilege of working with some really incredible organizations here in New Hampshire, and it just gives me a great privilege to be able to have this opportunity to talk to executive directors throughout the state about the work that they do. And I want to challenge all of you out there to really think of the word nonprofit in a different way when you start to learn about the organizations in our great state. We have great profits. We are empowering people. We're protecting children. We're preserving our environment. And so I want you to tune in to New Hampshire Cares and really learn a little bit about our nonprofit, our great state of New Hampshire, and the work that we do for people in our community. Hi, and welcome to New Hampshire Cares. I am really excited about the guest that I have today, Michael Apfelberg from United Way of Greater Nashua. Mike, we go back quite a ways, actually, with my big brother, big sister days. And, you know, it's so nice to have you in this chair because it means you're no longer in business, although I know that's not a good thing, but you're in kind of now my business, and I'm really excited about that. You've joined and locked arms with the nonprofits, so welcome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, really
it's good to be here.
Yeah, it's really good to have you here. It really is. So why don't we get started with you really kind of sharing a little bit about that journey for you, because I think that's probably a really interesting transition, and then you can kind of filter in some United Way information as we're going along.
Sure. So the journey for me from where I've been to where I am is I've spent most of my career in industry, printing and publishing industry, and then for the last 10 years, my wife and I built a family business here in Nashua. Did uniforms and embroidery and screen printing, and that's where we know each other from, actually. And about 6 months ago or so, we started looking at transitioning to maybe our new phase of life. You know, you hit 50 and you decide, what am I going to do now? And it wasn't like necessarily a midlife crisis, but it was time to maybe try something new. And it just happens that we found a family that wanted to start their own business, but not build it. And we had a business that we had built, but we're ready to transition out of. And so they bought it. And then I started looking around, and the nonprofit world was the place I really wanted to go. And United Way came along as an opportunity, and it's been fantastic.
Wow.
It's been really great.
That's terrific. It's terrific. And this, you know, it's funny because many of us, including myself, you know, kind of share a similar transition. Mine was many years ago, but a lot of those, obviously you take your skills with you, so it's not like you go to school to learn how to do nonprofit management. I mean, obviously you developed a business, you were in business, you had customers, you know, so a lot of those things are really applicable. So, congratulations for making the leap over.
Thank you. I don't feel that it's that much of a leap, although it feels really, really good.
Yeah.
And it's nice to wake up in the morning and not think about how am I going to do something good as part of my job, but actually your job is to do something good. And it's just a whole different perspective. So it's really, really cool.
Yeah, you do sleep well at night when you're in this line of work.
Usually.
You know, sometimes some of the work is challenging, but you still feel like you're making a difference.
That's absolutely true.
So that makes it all worthwhile.
Definitely.
But again, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
It's nice that you've joined us in Nashua.
Yeah.
So, you know, United Way is again, I have a great deal of experience with United Way, you know, being involved with the nonprofit community as many agencies are. And I probably know a little more than most only because of some of the committees that I've enjoyed being on, like community assessment, some of those others. But I think what would be really interesting is for you to kind of share a little bit of the history with United
Sure.
Way, because it is a very long established support for nonprofits.
Well, that's true. United Way, our United Way, when I say our United Way, I mean United Way of Greater Nashua. And we serve the Greater Nashua area, including Nashua, Merrimack, Hudson, Milford, and all of the smaller surrounding towns. So there are actually 11 towns in our community that we do serve. We've actually been around since 1930.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Started in the Great Depression. There was a movement toward building what they called a community chest. And that was something which was across the entire country. And we actually were incorporated as the Greater Nashua Community Chest. And really it was a way for people to give back to their community and filter resources out to organizations that were trying to better people's lives. And that went along through the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and in the late 60s, United Way as an organization started to gel nationwide. And that's somewhere in the late 50s, early 60s is when we actually became United Way, and have ever since served the same community, a lot of the same purpose. I mean, our purpose has evolved. We take a much more active role in convening community conversations and actively engaging in community impact work than previously was as much the case. The old school model is really United Way raises money, funnels it through the organization, funds programs at agencies. And we still do much of that. And that's a critical role for United Way. But we are also much more active in the community in really trying to impact areas that are in need of change. So.
Well, I know even, again, the community assessment is a great example of, and I always try to speak to it whenever I do the campaign rallies, because, you know, some organizations continue to fund things just because they've always funded them, and the United Way doesn't do that. United Way says, well, you know, where are the needs? Do we have any gaps? Who currently fills this, you know, who provides this service? And let's make sure that we're, you know, deploying our dollars in the community really to where, A, the greatest need is in the community, but also, you know, where we maybe can move a mountain or two that needs to be moved. So I've always appreciated that, and I think it, as a nonprofit leader, I always found those kinds of committee work that we would have through United Way, it allowed me to connect to people that I would not have otherwise connected to.
Well, that's true.
So it became, for me, kind of a networking opportunity, you know, not for funding, but to, you know, you might, from a nonprofit perspective, be able to really align with another organization or collaborate on something. So I know I've always appreciated that. So it's been in New Hampshire or in Nashua since the 30s.
So, yeah, our organization, actually our specific organization has been around since the 1930s.
Wow, 1930.
So it's
now,
quite a while.
Were we the first one in New Hampshire? How does it look
now
I don't know if we were
that.
to take that? I wonder.
I don't know. That's an excellent question. I don't know the history of United Way, other United Way organizations in New Hampshire. I'm going to find that out now, but I don't know that.
Is there, I know we have Granite United Way.
There are 4 United Ways.
I was going to say, okay.
Yeah, so there are 4 United Ways in the state. Each of us covers a territory. It's sort of like a franchise in business.
Sure.
We have a defined territory. So United Way of Greater Nashua, then there's Monadnock United Way, which is out in Keene and that area. There's Granite United Way, which is really Bedford and Manchester up and on north. So a very large footprint all the way up to the Canadian border. And then there's Seacoast United Way.
Okay.
So Seacoast is in Portsmouth, and they're actually part of Mass Bay United Way out of Boston.
Okay.
So those are the 4 United Ways.
All righty. Well, it was funny. I knew about the 3.
Yeah.
But I did not know about the Seacoast United Way, so I just learned something
we all get
myself.
to learn something. I'm
Isn't that
surprised because
Yeah.
you should be teaching me.
Yeah, no, I did not know about that one.
Yeah.
It wasn't as actively engaged with the Big Brothers Big Sisters out there, so I was under the assumption there might not be one.
Yeah.
But now
is.
I also, one of the things that I appreciate, and maybe you can speak to, is, you know, again, for viewers,
Yeah.
you know, there's always that discussion of, you know, where is my money going,
Sure.
and what is the process?
Sure.
You know, I know the process
Yeah.
is, I'll say it's grueling, but
Well,
it's actually
yeah.
improved over the years. And I think the one thing that I have appreciated from specifically Nashua's United Way process is you have a 3-year funding cycle.
Right.
Because, you know, time is money for a director
Yeah.
to be doing those on a yearly basis. So maybe speak to.
Well, there's also philosophy behind that. It's not just 3 years because it makes it easier for an agency to not have to re-up every year. But you know, the truth is, if you stand back, there are very few things in this world where we can move the needle in a significant way in 1 year. So it doesn't really make sense to just fund programs for a year anyway. So the process is really very, I mean, it's straightforward. It's a lot of work, but it's straightforward. It's every couple of years, typically every 3 years, we will do a comprehensive assessment of community needs, taking in data from a wide variety of sources, including the public health departments, including input from agencies, census data, gut check data from community leaders, and synthesize that into sort of a reporting out of where the greatest needs in the community are. From that, we will then solicit program proposals from the agency community. And if an agency, so let's say, for example, we've assessed a need around the area of transitional housing, which is in our current needs assessment, then an agency like the Anne Murray House in Hudson might come forward and say, well, we actually have a program where we do house and give people a home that have perhaps lost their home through maybe a foreclosure, and then for up to 2 years, they can have a home where they can live.
Yeah.
And so that's a program that would fit perfectly with a needs assessment.
Sure, of course.
And then we establish criteria for measuring outcomes. And hopefully, you know, over a couple of years, you can make an impact that way.
Yeah.
So it is a grueling process, but it's also, I think, helpful for the agencies too.
Well, it is. Well, and I think from an agency perspective, it keeps us accountable too.
Yeah.
And what I used to always appreciate too is that as a follow-up to the proposal was kind of that review and comment, you know, opportunity to go and people would ask questions. I know recently you came on a tour with some United
your
Way.
place, yeah.
I don't know if they were directors, but obviously very much engaged with
Yep.
United Way. And, you know, again, there's nothing like a field trip to see what
That's true.
organizations do and, you know, what you put on paper and how that resonates, and then being, you know, actually actively observing either
Yep.
a program, like if you were to go to the Plus Company, I
Right.
mean, what a great
Right.
tour that is.
Yep.
Or again, the Child Advocacy Center.
Well, at this point, I've actually visited almost all of we fund 17 different agencies.
Okay.
So it's actually a pretty large community that we work with. And
Sure.
I've had the opportunity to visit and tour and interact with almost every single one of those at this point. And it's impactful. The work that they're doing is remarkable.
Yeah.
Those were directors. We do try to bring our board of directors along because we want them to be engaged and know what, you know, why, have context for their volunteer efforts.
Sure. How many board of directors do you have?
Our board is 23 members.
Wow, okay.
So, and we've just added a couple of new members. Our board turns over the first of the year, so we added a couple of new board members. We had a couple leave through you know, normal attrition, and a couple more that we brought on. So it's a terrific board.
That's great. And
Yeah.
staff?
Oh, we're teeny tiny. So you asked the question, and I'll answer that with answer your question partially with the staffing answer. You asked, people want to know where my money goes.
Yeah.
And I get that question a lot when I'm out in the community, is people are concerned that when they're donating to a charity or cause or something, that their money isn't being sort of, you know, going into some black hole, that it actually gets spent well for something they care about.
Sure.
So in answer to that, we're actually a very small staff. We have a tiny overhead.
Good.
It's just 2 of us.
Wow.
Well, I say 2 1/4. So we're actually 2 1/4. We have a part-time administrative assistant who works with us too.
Oh, that's great.
We're powered by volunteers.
Yeah.
We've got a wonderful volunteer base of people who help out in a huge variety of needs. But
That's great.
but over 85% of the donated dollar that comes through United Way ends up actually going to agency purposes.
And right back to the community.
And that's important for us.
Right. Well,
that
that's
really is
a
important.
great place to stop. We're going to take a break, and when
Sure.
we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Michael Apfelberg. Thanks so much.
The United Way's mission is about making measurable improvements in people's lives through the caring power of our community, the collective caring power of our community. We all know that our community has people who at some point in time have needs and some point in time have means, and we try to connect the two together.
If I didn't have Girls Inc., I don't think I'd be a confident individual that I am now.
Well, I think things are going pretty well right now. United Way, along with the Meals on Wheels, helping very much so, yes.
Hi, welcome back to New Hampshire Cares. Again, I've got this great guest, Michael Apfelberg from the United Way of Greater Nashua, someone I've worked with really over the years. So again, it's so nice to have you on. And we were just sharing that we could really chat about this for hours and hours.
Maybe in our next segment.
Right, so next time I'll bring hot fudge sundaes like I promised,
I love
right?
that, yeah.
Or you know, we talk about maybe some other adult beverages that might be fun.
I'm okay
and
with that
we could
too.
we'll just have this be like episodes of United Way and Joy at New Hampshire Cares, right?
Why not? Sure.
It'll be good. Yeah. Well, you know, you gave us a really good perspective of, you know, certainly the history and, you know, some of the very traditional process for the grant proposals that, you know, certainly are supplied by organizations that you fund. Are there other initiatives that the United Way really has, you know, championed? You know, whether it be in New Hampshire with other United Ways or certainly just kind of solo here in Nashua?
Yeah, there are. So United Way has been evolving beyond that traditional role of just being a grant funding type of an organization to being more of a community activist type of a leader. And part of our leadership role is bringing people together around issues. We like playing the role of being a neutral kind of third-party convener. So when there is a topic which, you know, we sense there needs to be a community conversation around, bringing people together who, into a neutral kind of a format to have a discussion and talk about how can this issue be addressed. And so an example of that would be, right now we are in the second year of an initiative called One Greater Nashua, which evolved from that type of conversation. So One Greater Nashua is an initiative that is a partnership that includes the city, it includes the Chamber of Commerce, it's spearheaded by United Way, it also includes the Adult Learning Center, and really the idea is it's about immigrant integration. So if you think about our population in Nashua, we have sort of two faces of Nashua. We have a large growing immigrant population, and that's a very diverse set of needs. But I like to kind of tell people, you know, it's like we've all been a stranger in a strange land at some point in our lives, and how does that feel, and how effective is that, and do you have somebody to welcome you into the community and bring you up to speed and teach you where do you go and where do you do and where the, you know, how do I get effectively integrated into a community? And we do know that the quicker we can bring somebody into the community and get them integrated and get them you know, working or starting a business or getting into school, that there's not only less of a social burden of immigration, but in fact it becomes a net positive. And so it's an economic development initiative as much as anything else. But that's something we're very involved with.
Oh, that's great.
It's a fantastic initiative.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And all volunteer driven and really, really just great. The second area we're focusing on quite a bit is, of course, it's a very hot topic these days, but the substance misuse, call it crisis, issue, dilemma, whatever we want to call it. We have a grant-funded initiative at United Way called the Nashua Prevention Coalition.
Yeah.
It's a drug-free communities grant, and it's a coalition of partners that includes a lot of activity from the school district, from the medical community, from the first responder community, and basically it's really geared not so much towards treatment, but it's geared towards prevention.
Sure.
And it's a very much of a education and prevention initiative. So when people see like Red Ribbon Week comes around, that's very high profile. The Prevention Coalition is the group that actually does the Red Ribbon activities.
Yeah,
in
and
the
people
school.
can actually, Janet was on the
Sure,
show, and they can go on YouTube
Yeah.
and actually watch her. I mean, she really does do a really nice job at explaining that kind of initiative and that
It's
organization.
unbelievable. It's great work.
She mentioned, obviously, she
Yeah.
sits at the United
Yeah.
Way. Yep,
She does.
that's great.
So those are the types of initiatives that we're getting more involved with. And the other thing is, and this is kind of back on the agency and more the traditional part of it, is what's really changing is not so much of a process change, but we're starting to change the way we think about the impact that we make. So just from a measurement perspective, we've always measured widgets. How many kids did you feed? How many books did they read? How many, pencils got sharpened? It's widgets and outputs. What we're trying to do is move the dialogue so it's more of a community outcomes type of a process, where we know, for example, that reading at third grade level is critical in education. Kids, you spend the first 6 or 7 years of your life learning to read, and then you spend the rest of your life reading to learn. But if you don't learn to read first, you're never going to read to learn.
Right.
So learning to read and measuring that kids are at grade level in third grade is a very easy outcome to measure, and we're starting to make sure that our outputs from our agencies are geared towards a measurement that ties into that outcome. So down the road, we want to be able to say we've actually had an impact,
Right.
a real impact.
That's a smart way to look at it too, obviously, because we used to struggle with that all the time at Big Brothers Big Sisters. The question would always be, if you saw someone, well, how many matches did you make in a year?
Yeah.
And I said, it's quality, not quantity.
It's true.
Because if I were to tell you 400, which there were years there were 400, do you think that that's a lot, or do you think that's not enough?
Yeah.
I mean, when you know how many children there are in Nashua that probably could
Absolutely.
use another caring adult, right? So it becomes, I always tried to move people away from how many, and how many kids graduated high school because they had a mentor.
It's what are we doing?
Right.
Yeah, it's what are we doing here?
Right,
Why
exactly.
are we doing this?
Right.
Ultimately, what's the outcome? And,
Right.
and so moving that dialogue along, we're not looking to change our process so much as change the conversation.
Right. Well, and what you're asking in return, again, we go back to the grant process, then there's reporting and accountability and all that good stuff, and you're certainly asking in return
Right.
for some of those. Now, 211 is something that I know a little bit about. So maybe how's that going? I mean, that's kind of
211
information and referral. I remember the old days of the help book.
Yeah, 211 is, I'm kind of a 211 evangelist.
Okay.
Whenever I go out and do events at employee meetings, or even speaking at chamber events, if you put me in front of a crowd, somewhere along the way, I'm going to say, by show of hands, how many people here have even heard of 211?
Right.
And it's sad how few people raise their hands. So I'm trying to change. That's my number that I'm trying to change. So 211 is going along well. 211 is it's a simple number to remember. If somebody just dials 211 or goes to 211.org, the website, you can really address any kind of a human services need. It's confidential, it's free, and if you say, I have somebody who I know who just lost their job, and they're looking for maybe financial literacy counseling, or they're looking for even more harsh of a circumstance, somebody who's homeless and needs, very basic needs, or somebody who's dealing with substance abuse or depression. Those are all human services needs that the 2-in-1 organization will connect a person to that agency. They don't really provide that help. You know, they're going to be the ones who say.
But it's like the old days of calling.
It's 411.
Right, 411.
What's Joy's number?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Critical program. Big partnership with Eversource is a big partner in that.
I think the
And
call center is there.
The call center is
yeah.
there. And, but it's a great program.
That's
so
terrific.
if people from this show remember nothing else, remember 211. And
So
that would be
211.
great.
So you can tell them.
Remember, dial 211.
There you go.
There
See,
you go. I like it. Thank you very
I'm helping you out
much.
with your outcomes. we have a little less
Yeah.
than 4 minutes left,
Sure.
and I'm so excited. You know,
Yeah.
whenever there's a change in any kind of leadership,
Yeah.
there always comes this new energy. And it's not that the old was, not energetic or didn't have great ideas, but it just kind of spurs things
Sure.
a little bit.
Sure.
So I guess I would love for you to share in the last few minutes,
Yeah.
where you see this United Way going, maybe
Yeah.
short term and maybe, from a 30,000-foot view.
Well,
What's that going to look like?
Short term, my biggest issue that I see is what I call a branding opportunity. I walk around the community, I meet with people, and I tell them that I'm, the new guy at United Way, and some people look at me like, United Way? We have a United Way? And other people say, United Way? Oh, what do they do? And so I don't have anybody who ever says, what is United Way? But I have very few people who know what we do and the value that we bring to the community. So in the short term, I'm focusing a lot of energy on making sure that we get the word out, what United Way does, that we are here, that we're present in the community, that we're working to really bring significant impact to the community in a positive way, and that we would love to have them partner with us.
Great.
The other thing is, that's sort of the mission. The other is, where is that mission? And that mission, for better or worse, has been focused mostly on Nashua itself. And this 11 communities that we serve, I take that pretty seriously, that we actually serve all 11 communities. So it's getting out to the agencies in Milford, for example, and meeting with the folks out there at the Boys and Girls Club.
Share.
And at Share, exactly, and talking with them. It's making the rounds to the various chambers of commerce, not just the Nashua Chamber of Commerce, which I'll freely admit to being a member of and have worked with for a long time, but also are we going out to Merrimack and over to Amherst, to the Sohegan Valley Chamber, and over to Hudson. Gosh, over on the other side of the river,
Right,
wow. So
that's important to do.
It's not important, it's critical. And it's, the agencies that we work with, we ask them to also participate in the lives of all of those communities, but we also ask companies to participate and give back in those communities. And it's very hard to go to a business in, say, Amherst, if you aren't actually doing something in Amherst.
Right.
So I think taking our broader territory seriously is very important.
Right. That's terrific. Well, you're doing a really wonderful job.
Well, thank
And how many months are you in now?
It was 4.
That's it?
Yeah, September 28th was my first day. So
You're
so-
well packaged and versed already.
I've had
Usually
this-
it takes about 6 months to get the elevator speech down.
yeah,
You jumped in with both feet.
Yeah, I jumped in with both feet,
Yeah.
and it's easy to do when you love what you do.
Yeah.
And this is an easy job. I'll be honest. I have the best job in Nashua. I challenge anybody to.
Well, you can
to tell
challenge me because I
otherwise.
think I have the best job in Nashua. But
That might be true too.
No, but congratulations
Thank you,
to
Joy.
you. You're doing a great job. You're out there all the time. I see you trying to be very present. I think it's smart that you're in all the communities because, again, you're serving them as well and the people there. So thank you very
thank you.
much for coming on. We'll have you on again.
Sure.
We'll do a 1-year checkup with you.
That sounds good.
So thank
be
you
glad to
so
be back.
much for tuning into New Hampshire Cares. Again, make sure you check out the United Way of Greater Nashua. They're doing great stuff. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.